clock is ticking. Be in front of your TV sets for the hard part. We're gonna make a big giveaway. Don't miss it.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Let's Talk Movies. I'm Brad.
I'm Miguel.
And happy Thursday, Sun, Mon, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever day it is. Happy Friday night, everybody. Hope you have had an amazing work week. Listen, it's over. It's over. It's like when Joey, whatever the hell his name is, screams at the end of Dream Warriors, and they're like, "It's over. It's done. Freddy's gone." And you bitch, he screamed. You didn't kill him. You didn't stop him. You didn't do anything. Calm down.
I'm with a stretch on referencing a fucking movie.
I know.
Scene.
I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. But guys, happy Friday. Hope you've had a good work week. This is a special one. This is one that I've waited for since the day this show was conceived, since Miguel and I conceived this show together. Naked. Anyways, Jaws. One of the absolute greatest films ever made, in my opinion. And as we talked about in our watch along, when you look at the production and when you look at what Spielberg and the crew of this movie went through to get this thing made, I mean, it's incredible that it turned out so well and that it became... I mean, this is the first summer blockbuster. This is the career-defining movie for Steven Spielberg, which is, I mean, you could argue he is the most successful director in cinematic history. And it's just, it's amazing to think what this movie went through and what it became however many years later, still to this day. I mean, it's still considered by cinephiles to be, you know, like the greatest, one of the greatest movies. Cinephiles, people who are real into movies, bro. Okay. We're cinephiles.
I would not connect my name to that tag. But I'm glad.
You didn't know you were a cinephile? It's like
the cinephile.
What are they called? What are the My Little Pony people? What do they call them?
You got it, because I don't.
I don't remember. There's like a weird cult following behind the My Little Pony thing. I remember. Anyways,
Oh, that's always cool.
Sierra's in the chat. She said, "What up?" And she also said, "We're weirdos." Yeah, you know we're weirdos though, and you love us anyways, and we love you.
We're so fucking weird though.
It's okay. We are weird, but that's all right. What are you gonna do? Miguel, buddy, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. It's been a week, but I'm excited to talk about this movie, and then we get on with our weekend.
Mm-hmm. Listen, I'm leaving for. It's perfect time to talk about this. I'm leaving for the beach on Sunday.
Yeah,
So,
but you don't
like-
fucking care about sharks, so this is just normal.
What?
street
Because I'm
talk.
not scared of sharks.
Yeah.
That's fair. I'm scared at a healthy level of sharks. Put it that way. I will say I saw a video like 2 days ago, where we're going. We're going to Pensacola, and where they're going, they caught like a 13-foot great white like a couple months ago, like on a reel, and they pulled it up on shore. Yeah, so I'm going to that.
Damn.
Hopefully, listen. The plan is here's my goal. I am gonna go early, either really early in the morning, like at sunrise, or I definitely plan on walking the beach at night, because if you've never walked on the beach at night, it's the most zen, peaceful thing you've ever done in your entire life. It's so great. But I'm hoping to see a little bit of shark activity, because there's been a lot lately. Sharks are like, I mean, they've always been a thing. That sounds stupid when I say that, but there's been a lot of shark activity lately. They're getting driven out, man. Orcas, fishing, all those things.
I was
Drive
gonna
'em
say, like, I thought we talked about that in the movies
out. Yeah.
when we were watching the movie about the whole fucking
Yep.
orcas.
Yep. And they should sponsor us. Drinking that lime bubbly. Yeah, I'm turning into my grandfather
funny.
and I'm drinking sparkling water.
You know
Honestly,
what's so funny, guys? You know what's
What is-
so fucking and also kind of cringe?
What?
I'm also drinking healthy soda.
solid.
That's what a
I like the lime
late
better.
20s man does.
It's a good alternative to like actual soda,
Beer.
like Coke or Pepsi or Sprite or beer. I don't have any beer. That's why I'm actually not drinking one. But
You hear that, guys? He feels weird doing a show without drinking something.
I do feel weird. It's odd. It's like taking a shower with your clothes on. Anyways, so real quick, before we get too deep into the show, the Oktoberfest preview dropped tonight. If you haven't gotten a chance to see that, everybody in the Facebook group got a sneak peek of the happenings that are going to be going on beginning on September 29th here at the channel. All horror content all month long in the month of October. It's going to be an absolute blasty blast up in our pants. And then also, just kind of a preview, I said I'm going to be out of town next week. No live show, because obviously I won't be here. Sunday night, my episode 5 review, Stories We Tell Ourselves of The Walking Dead Dead City, which if you're a Walking Dead fan and you haven't checked it out, it's baller. So you should definitely check out Dead City. So Sunday night,
My straight ballin'.
yes, Sunday night, my spoiler review of Dead City episode 5. On Tuesday night, talking who I would cast if Halloween was remade. If Halloween was remade tomorrow, or the next day, 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 or even
The next
a month
day.
from now,
Okay.
who I would choose to play mainly Dr. Loomis and Lori, but that'll be on Tuesday night, and then this is one this has been kind of a little bit of a passion project of mine. I've wanted to make a video about this for a long time, because I absolutely adore the 2003 remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I say I adore it like it's some like fun, happy movie, like I'm watching Forrest Gump or something.
It's a casual family movie that he watches. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. It's a really wholesome family film, a film for the kids. That's really what at the end of the day what it
It's
is.
definitely a family movie.
But I rewatched it last night actually, and it's probably my favorite horror remake. I'm gonna be real. It is. I love
Yeah.
it. And it's gruesome and disgusting, and it kind of makes you throw up in your mouth a little bit. But it's really, really well done. That's a good thing. That means it's doing its job. As I hit my microphone, it's doing its job if it makes you throw up in your mouth a little bit.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, for someone that hasn't watched the remake, you know, or someone that doesn't remember much of the remake,
Have you not seen it?
Oh, dog, dude, it is a faint memory to me.
Dude, it's well done. Like, it's not even just that it's like gruesome and scary. Like, it's very gruesome and it's very scary in some instances, but like
Hmm.
it's still I know this is, you see people put, what's your movie opinion that'll get you like the John Wick where you've got all the guns pointed at him or whatever. I kind of prefer it to the original. I'm gonna be real. I think it does everything that the original was trying to do better. Poisonally. That's just what I think. Poisonally. But so that's a little bit of what's to come next week. Again, no live show. Oktoberfest teaser drop tonight. Dead City review on Sunday night. Halloween casting choices on Tuesday, and then on Saturday night, diving back into the world of good old Mr. Leather. So, if you haven't checked out the Oktoberfest preview on the channel yet, go ahead and do that, please. Go ahead and leave that a like. So as we get into Jaws, first of all, let's just be clear about this. There is no way we could ever touch on everything there is to talk about with Jaws. I mean, the production alone,
only scratching the surface.
I mean, legit. We could talk about the production and the making of Jaws, a 2.5 hour show, literally. I kid you not. It could be there's that much to talk about, and there's that much information out there, kind of about everything that happens. So we're just going to kind of hit big points again. We'll dive into the production. We'll dive into the movie and kind of beat by beat in our thoughts and things like that. Oh, why am I burping? It's because I'm drinking this. I'm drinking this sparkling water. That's why.
Yeah, that's true. I'm very sorry.
I picked lime though, so it goes with the tropical thing, So Jaws, we did a watch along of this film the other night, which is up to like almost 800 views.
Shout out to the fans,
which is awesome. Really, really cool. But we did a watch along, and if you want our kind of beat by beat thoughts throughout the film, the watch along is the place to do that. This is kind of more broad strokes of kind of what we think about everything in total, and just kind of taking a deep dive into what happened, and into the film itself. But here's the deal. Jaws released on June 20th, 1975. It is considered to be on a Tuesday. It is considered to be the first real summer blockbuster film. And despite a hellish production and what was supposed to be like a $3.5 million budget, which ended up being a $9 million budget by the time it was all said and done, Jaws made $476.5 million at the global box office in 1975, which at the time was which at the time made it the highest grossing movie ever made, until Steven Spielberg's good friend George Lucas released some tiny little insignificant film called Star Wars: A New Hope. But that's besides the point. Before all the Star Wars people come at me in the comments.
I know, right? I'm gonna stand back.
Yeah. So Star Wars did overtake Jaws at some point, but Jaws is currently the 7th highest grossing film of all time when adjusted with inflation. And this really put it into perspective for me when I saw this, and I looked at these figures. If you were to release Jaws today with the same box office figures, with those numbers, it would make the Jaws theatrical run today a little over $2 billion. That's how big this movie was at the time when it came out. I mean, this was a $2 billion movie. That's Avatar, Avengers Endgame.
That's just with numbers, the shark. That's just with Bruce.
Yeah. Bruce, fish are friends, not food. I don't know if that's ever been confirmed. They didn't find any Nemo.
Is Bruce like a nod to Steven Spielberg's Shark?
I would think so.
I'd say. They'd be foolish not to allow that to happen, I guess, right?
Yeah. But so, I mean, that kind of puts it into perspective of, I mean, this would have been a $2 billion movie today. And I think, when you look at my earliest recollection of watching Jaws, or not necessarily even recollection, I've always remembered seeing this movie. It's just kind of one of those movies that I've grown up watching and that I've grown up with. Again, I've mentioned this before. I'm from Florida, and I was a beach kid. I was at the beach all the time. I am definitely a tropical kid, and my parents have told me multiple times that as a kid, I would watch Jaws from behind the couch as if that would change anything that was happening, but I would sit and like I would peek at it from behind the couch because it's scary. Like, I'm going to be real. The shark is scary to a little kid. It's pretty freaky. And
I'd love to know like what parts too.
I don't know. Quint, I gotta tell you, Quint's death, spoiler alert, I don't know how you wouldn't know Quint dies, but Quint's death is pretty gruesome. Even as an adult, like, his scream, it's that last scream he lets out when you hear, like, the teeth clamp down and you get, like, the like the crunch sound.
Yeah.
He lets out, like, the most blood-curdling scream in that moment, and it's so just, like, it's creepy. I mean, like, even when the shark backs off out of the boat, it just kind of drags his body, like, down under the water. I mean, that's pretty hardcore parkour. Well, you're not hardcore.
Yeah.
It
Well, yeah.
really is.
I'd say like
Oh, yeah.
like back then, you know, I'm sure that's probably like probably
Right.
one of the more like gruesome deaths out there.
I watched.
And that
I
was
don't
back
even.
when like, and that was like, and you gotta say like during that time of that movie, a lot of those deaths were pretty much like off screen. Like you don't really
Right.
see the
Yeah.
actual attacks
Mhm.
until you see Quint's death, which I think was incredible decision right there. I gotta
Yeah.
say.
Well, and it's a decision that was born uh, out of something going wrong, and out of everything going wrong, really, because this production, it was a hellish time. Steven Spielberg was fired multiple times during this. He thought this would be the movie that tanked him, and of course, it ended up being the movie that made him, which is so cool and so interesting.
Right.
But here's kind of how it all started. If you think, if you've heard of this before, there was a string of shark attacks in like 1916 or something like that, in New Jersey. And it was like these little kids, but they were swimming like in a canal that was connected to the ocean or something, and they were attacked and killed by sharks. It was a whole string of shark attacks that happened in 1916, and that was kind of one of the things that inspired Peter Benchley's novel Jaws, which I believe came out in 1974. But here's what had happened. So Universal executives Richard D. Zanuck, I believe that's how you say his name.
Zanuck.
Zanuck.
I don't mean to make
I
fun
don't
of
know.
your name.
I know. Sorry, buddy. You gave us Jaws, so I'm not making fun of you at all. And David Brown. So Richard Zanuck and David Brown had heard about the novel separately. The novel hadn't even come out yet, but Brown's wife was an editor for Cosmopolitan magazine, and there was a piece about the book in there before it came out. Both of these guys read the script, not the screenplay, but the novelization in one single night, and they absolutely loved it. They said it was like the most exciting thing they had ever read, and they immediately were like, "We got to we got to do this. This has to happen. We got to make this into a movie." So after a while, they ended up buying the rights to. They bought the film rights to Jaws before the book even came out. The book hadn't even released before they bought the film rights.
That's funny
to it.
because
Yeah.
so they read like a pre.
I mean, they
copy of
read it. They read
Yeah.
the whole book. Yes. They got to read it before it came out. At least that's my understanding. I could be wrong. But my understanding is that they read the book before it came out. And it's funny because what's interesting is later on, they had actually stated that if they had read the book twice, the movie adaptation probably wouldn't have been made because they would have realized how hard it was to pull off. And because if you think about it, it is a hard thing. I think it's the reason that in every shark movie today, The Shallows, The Meg, I know The Meg is a little bit different too, but Deep Water, is it Deep Water? What's it called? Not Deep Water.
Something meters deep.
Deep, Something Meters Deep, Deep Blue Sea, all those films.
Everything's deep.
God,
deep,
there's
deep,
one,
deep.
I know, deep. There's one that, God, what is it called? It's going to kill me if I don't. It's not.
Bro, it's a lot of movies. Sharknado? Is that what you're talking about?
Okay,
Sharknado?
Sharknado is hot garbage.
Yeah, but you make fun of every other shark movie too, so why not stop there?
What is this called? It's not The Shallows. It came out a while ago. Open Water. Yeah, that's what it is. Open Water. I remember.
What we said.
I remember my parents going to see Open Water on a date night in 2003, and they came back and said it was the biggest piece of garbage they had ever seen in their life. Although, I didn't even tell you this. They straight up walked out of Asteroid City the other night. And 3 other couples walked out of Asteroid City. They said it was the worst movie they had ever seen in their entire life. Like they
Really?
don't do that. Like we're movie people. Like my family, like we are movie people. Like we don't walk out of movies, and they actually got up. Half of the theater got up and left. That's how bad it was.
Wow.
I was like, wow. So I'm kind of interested. I haven't read many reviews for that one, but anyways, back to what I was going to say. I think the reason that they realized this would be so difficult was because of the fact that it's a shark. It's not like it's an animal that you can train, or it's not
Bro,
like
yeah,
it's something
like I
simple
think that
to
was
film.
something that Hollywood just had trouble with, and I'm
That's
not surprised
why-
that they did animatronics.
Right. That's why sharks have always been CGI'd, and of course, at that time, what the?
I saw that, guys. I saw that on his finger. I was like, "What is the fuck is that on his
What
finger?"
the hell was that?
That was a bug. I hope you enjoy that bug.
Get off of me.
There's straight up a bug, guys.
Did you watch that happen?
I straight up saw it.
I'm
crawl out
sorry.
the middle
You
finger.
watched that happen like live. I don't know
It
what
was
that
like
was.
I'm about to say. I was like,
I'm dying. It was a fly. Actually, I'm going to turn into Jeff Goldblum right now. It's going to happen. My eyes are going to start bugging out and my skin's going to peel.
I cannot wait.
You can't wait to see that.
Yeah.
What was my point? I don't even know. Oh, that's the reason I think that every shark movie since Jaws has been CGI'd, and there's something about a CGI shark that just, even the good ones don't really look that good because
What do
you
want
can't
then?
nail.
What do you want then?
Do an animatronic shark. You
How
could
did that
they
work?
could kill it, bro. They could kill that today. If they pulled this off in 75, they could definitely pull that off today with
No.
practical effects.
I
You don't think
they
so?
No.
Really? I
No.
think you could. I don't know. Maybe I'm too ambitious. Maybe that's why I'm not a filmmaker. But it's a difficult thing to try and pull off. And they went ahead and bought the film rights. And at this point, Steven Spielberg was 26 years old. He had slowly but surely kind of worked his way onto the scene at Universal. He had begun working on smaller projects, TV episodes, smaller films, short films, things like that. And he had just directed his first feature-length picture, which was called Sugarland Express, which was also for Universal. And from what I can tell, I've never seen it, but the reception for it was kind of mixed. There was some good, some bad. And I mean, let's be real. It was Spielberg's first movie. I mean, you couldn't expect E.T. or Jurassic Park or Jaws or Raiders. You know what I mean? It's come on.
How old was he when he made that film? How old was
26. I think he was
Really?
26. Yep.
Damn, can you imagine that? Look at these motherfuckers
Younger than me.
looking at us at 26 years old. Fuck out of here.
Yeah. But I think he turned a lot of heads. I think he was a lot of people were kind of shocked by what he was able to do. And I mean, listen, as a 26-year-old filmmaker, to get mixed reviews like that, I think that's a good thing. When you're making people's heads turn and go, ooh,
Ooh.
hey, you know,
Ooh.
that's that was a little bit of Christopher Walken in there. You know, you had to get the Christopher Walken in there. I don't know.
Foo
what I'm talking
Fighters.
about anymore. Foo
Ladies
Fighters.
and gentlemen, Foo Fighters.
But so anyways, Spielberg walks into the Universal office one day and he sees a 6-inch stack of white paper and it's got the word Jaws on top. And he asked about it and they explained him the plot. He read things over. I believe they actually asked him for his thoughts on it, on the project. And he liked it. He was like, this is pretty cool. And they told him they already had a director assigned to the project. It was a guy named Dick Richards. And what I find... What? What the hell are you laughing
Dick
at?
Richards.
Dick Richards, yeah.
You know his like full name. His nickname could have been like Dick Squared
I'm pretty sure that's
because Richard
right.
is Dick.
Yeah, Dick Richards.
Yeah, so his name could be Dick Squared.
Yeah.
Sorry, that made me
Okay.
laugh. So
You're a child
my
sometimes.
6-year-old mind just thought that.
You're an
Oh
actual
my God,
child
it's so
sometimes.
funny.
Anyways, so Dick Richards was hired to direct
Dick
Jaws.
Squared.
And what I find hysterical is that when they're kind of in the early stages of planning the film, and they're in this room is a group of Universal execs. What's their faces? Robert Zanuck or Richard Zanuck and David Brown are in there. Peter Benchley is in
David
the room.
Gordon Green.
Yeah, John Carpenter, all of the important people, and they're all in this meeting room with him, and this guy is like, I have a very clear vision of how I want to start the film and how I want to start Jaws, and he's like, we start at the bottom of the ocean, and it's rising up, and we see Amity Island come out from from the waterline or whatever, and the beaches are full of people, and he's like, and then you see it, and he goes. At least it's so funny how they tell this, because he's real dramatic. He's narrating kind of how this is going to go, and then he goes,
Dick, right?
Yeah. This is the director that Spielberg replaced, and he's like, and then the whale comes right out of the water, and all of the Universal execs and Peter Benchley are like, "Do you mean the shark?" And Peter Benchley was like, "Bro, get this guy out of here. I can't." He was like, "I can't." He was like, "If he's gonna not just be able to distinguish, like the shark and the whale kind of thing, like he's got to go." Which, to be fair, I think this guy worked on a Moby Dick movie, or I think he worked on Dick Richards' Moby Dick.
No, I'm intrigued. What does this man look like?
I don't remember. I'm trying to find.
Not who I'm thinking.
Yeah, it was literally because it was the Old Man and the Sea.
I did not see that in his filmography.
He I don't know. For whatever reason, he confused the shark and the whale. And Peter Benchley and the other executives were like, we can't do this if he can't even differentiate between a great white shark and a whale. Which, again, was it probably just a mix-up? Of course it was. Probably could have happened to anybody. But you could see all of the Universal execs being like, do you mean the shark? So essentially, they called Spielberg up and they were like, "Hey, man, you're up. You're in, coach. Like, slap ass, you're in. It's time." So at this point, Universal didn't really think about I don't think they really thought it through as much as they probably should have. First of all, many crew members have said this. Universal was like, "Well, we'll get an animal trainer and we'll train a great white." And it's like,
it's gonna train.
You can't train a great white like you'd train a dog or even a lion or something to have a part in a film. You know what I mean? You can't do that. Like, it's not a thing. And the other thing is they were like, we'll film this thing in a lake or in a big tank. And Spielberg was like, absolutely not. We are not going to do that because water does not behave the same way on a lake as it does in the Atlantic Ocean. It doesn't look the same. The color is different. The texture is different. Everything about it is just, it's not the same. So, they didn't necessarily think through how difficult this was going to be before they just wanted to get it rolling,
Bro, imagine the fucking bomb it would have been if they just gun ho right into it. You know what I mean?
I know. Well, but they did kind of gung ho right into it. What's up, Don Morton? He says, "What's up, gentlemen? What's up, buddy? Glad you're here." Yeah, they just kind of thrust themselves into it without really having a set plan, I think. Mm-hmm. And Jaws was given a shooting schedule of 55 days. They had 55 days from start to finish to film the entire movie. Had a budget of $3.5 million. And as we know, that budget ended up getting pushed all the way up to $9 million. And Benchley himself, it was in the deal when I told you before they bought the film rights to the book before it even released. In that deal, it was written that Peter Benchley himself would write the first draft of Jaws. And, I think Spielberg wasn't entirely wild about everything in the book. Like in the novel, I think Hooper has an affair with Ellen, which is Brody's wife. and there were a lot of other like weird subplot things that he wanted to axe, and he wanted to
let me say
focus
Nobody cares
about what?
about those subplots.
About the other stuff?
If
Well,
the
he had to
title of the
fill up a
movie
whole
is
novel
Jaws,
too. A novel and a
true.
movie are two very different things.
Okay, I thought we were just talking about the movie. My bad.
Oh yeah, could you imagine if the movie would have been like a bunch of different subplots, like the affair and stuff?
Yeah, I would have like been like, I don't care. I loved it whenever the movie started with just the three amigos just going into the sea. I was like, now the movie starts.
Yeah. But he wanted to focus on the manhunt for the shark, and he also wanted to put some humor in it. He felt that it was too dark without it, and he brought a Tony Award-winning playwright named Howard Sackler onto the project to rewrite things. And Peter Benchley said he was written out. He was like, I can't do this anymore. Give this to somebody else, because I've already told the story once, and now I'm trying to tell it again, but in a different way. And I think he was just kind of starting to go in circles with it. He couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until a guy named Carl Gottlieb. I don't know how you Gottlieb. I don't know. Carl Gottlieb was attached to the project, and it really began to become what it was. And at the time, like what's going on right now, which I know we've said we're going to do an episode on this, the Screenwriters Guild was threatening a strike by the summer. So I think at this time it had been like April or May, and they needed Jaws. Man, it is Burp City on the street.
What happens when you think something bubbly?
I know, bubbly. But they were threatening a strike by the summer, so they were like, you guys have to write and film Jaws by like mid-June. Like, it's got to be done. Kapush, done.
Because they know it's going to be a strike.
You want to hear something kind of wild? Here's how much they were flying by the seat of their pants with this thing. Quint and Hooper were cast 9 days before they started filming. 9 days before it actually like went to camera. 9 days, and they cast them. And Quint, they actually wanted a guy named Lee Marvin or Sterling Hayden, but then they settled on Robert Shaw because he had such a big personality. Spielberg did want Richard Dreyfus, but Richard Dreyfus actually turned it down a couple of times. I think Richard Dreyfus had a little bit of a big head back then, and he was like, I don't need that. Like, I'm not doing that, whatever. And I think he was in some other film that flopped, and then he begged Spielberg to let him back in at this point.
That's
and
so funny.
It's funny because it's like at this point you almost have to step back and remember, like, at this point these guys are not like Richard Dreyfuss, Spielberg. These guys were not like icons at this point. They were kind of nobodies, like at the very beginning of their career, and it's nuts to think of that. Rosalia said, hey guys, I wish I could stay. I'm at a dinner. I just wanted to say hi and hit the like. Thank you so much, Rosie. We love you. Enjoy your dinner. Hope it's delicious. But then it's funny, Brody, they originally offered it to Robert Duvall. That would have been a very different Brody if they'd gotten Robert Duvall for that.
Really?
Yeah. And then Charlton Heston was interested in it, but they thought he was kind of like the buff action movie star at the time, and they didn't want that to be. They wanted Brody to be a little bit more low key than that, and I think that works. I think when you look at Brody's character, he's afraid of the ocean. He just moved. He's kind of the family man that's really invested into his job. He's got 2 young kids. I don't think of that as somebody who's all like, get to the chopper. Like it's not that kind of role. Like, we don't need the Terminator out there trying to kill a shark,
We're dealing with like nitwits taking out a giant shark, pretty much.
Fair. I don't think they were nitwits. I just think they were normal dudes, Dudes. Essentially.
Yeah, I can see that.
But, of course, it was funny. Roy Scheider, how it came to be that he played Martin Brody, was Steven Spielberg was at a dinner party or something like that, and he was sitting by himself, and Roy Scheider came up to him and was like, why are you alone? Are you okay? And they started talking, whatever, and he cast him in the movie, and Lorraine Gary ended up playing his wife and things like that. And it just so the cast had kind of come to be, but then you had the difficulty of the actual shoot, which of
Let's
course,
talk about how bad that was.
You had a couple of things to play. You had the shark. if you watch any of the documentaries, Richard Dreyfus, Spielberg, all of them said that, throughout Martha's Vineyard where they were filming this, on all of the radios, because you got to think, you have people on land with all the equipment. Then you have everybody on the boats that are filming on the water. But if you need any more equipment from land, you have to send a smaller boat from these boats all the way back to the land and then get back over to these boats that are docked over here. Like it was a disaster. You had like that going on, plus the shark was never working. All of the cast members and the crew members recount hearing on the radios all the time, like everywhere, the shark's not working. The shark is not working, and things like that, just on the radios all the time. And then you also had the fact that you're at the mercy of the Atlantic Ocean. Like, if the weather doesn't want to cooperate,
you're fucked.
Sorry. If the wind, if it's too windy, sorry. If the tide is too strong, sorry. If it's too wavy, sorry. And there's nothing you can do. It's not like you're in a controlled environment like when you're on a set and they can adjust certain things. You're just screwed. There's nothing you can do about it at all. So there were so many things that made it really difficult. I think, if I remember correctly, they had 3 different sharks. They made 3 25-foot animatronic sharks that, of course, they nicknamed Bruce. And I think that was after Spielberg's lawyer, if I'm not mistaken, which is kind of funny.
So why was it? Why was it after his lawyer? Because he was a shark?
I have no idea. That's kind of funny if that's true. Yeah. But there were 2 orcas. There was one that actually functioned as a boat, and then there was one that was dubbed the Orca 2, which literally the entire purpose of that was to sink on command.
Sink it.
Yep, was to just trash it and sink it. Of course, at the end of the movie, when the ship is sinking and Brody's got to blow up, But so they went to Universal and they're like, "Hey, we need this animatronic shark," and Universal was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, we're too busy for that. We can't do that." And they didn't want to. What are you laughing at?
I was just thinking to myself, I was like, can you imagine going up to the executives and be like, we need a big shark, an animatronic shark. That's what we need.
Well, it was the special effects department at Universal. They were like, yeah, that's going to take us years to get done. Plus, I think they knew Jaws would be, they wanted to make it, but I still think to those Universal executives, Jaws was just a low budget horror movie at the time. You know what I mean? I don't think
they weren't thinking much of they weren't thinking it was going to be as massive as it is.
Exactly. I don't think they realized that it would be a blockbuster, because that wasn't a thing back then. Nobody knew the term blockbuster, but you get what I'm saying. I don't think anybody realized how important it would be. So of course they didn't do that, and they ended up turning to a guy named Bob Matty, who had created the giant squid in the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea movie. And he was the one who created the sharks. And it was funny, Steven Spielberg in the what's it called? The Making of Jaws, it's like the Inside Story or whatever that documentary is called. He had said the crew nicknamed the production Flaws because he was like, we'd have a 12-hour shooting day, but because of all of the problems with everything, like and if you think about it, they'd set up a shot, and then as they're setting up the shot with the clear horizon, making you think, hey, they're out, 6-7 miles out in the ocean, like a sailboat would be like. So they'd have to wait the entire time.
So the sailboat's gone
to move.
Because you can't really dictate a certain amount of area of the sea.
Yeah,
it's like this is just for
exactly. And that, I think, made it really, really difficult in combination with the sharks not working and then the weather not cooperating and things like that.
Can you imagine the guy sailing and all of a sudden you just see the giant animatronic shark? Him not knowing it's a shark, just animatronic, but just seeing that giant shark just pop out of nowhere.
Richard Dreyfus in one of the documentaries, he was like, we would take an hour to set up this shot, and they'd finally have the shark working, and it would finally be like exactly what they wanted. He was like, and then there'd be like a ship in the background or something, and they'd be like, oh my God. Like, this can't be happening, man. Yeah. He said Spielberg and them would get so angry when one of their shots was ruined. And I think like Don said, the frustration must have been ridiculous. I think the crew was so fed up with this that they all kind of hated each other by the end of it.
I'm pretty sure we said it we said it in our movie watch along. We said the rap party must have been like non-existent.
Yeah,
They literally
everybody
just
just getting
stopped
drunk.
filming and then came to the premiere. That's literally what happened.
Yeah, it's like when you see in a movie, like when somebody walks into a prom and everybody's just standing around and they're not like everybody was just standing there like on their like seventh beer, not talking at the in the.
It's
rap
like
party.
after the end of the whole shoot, Steven Spielberg's like, "All right, guys, go home to your wives and kids. Go ahead and kiss them."
You know, he had said like, basically what had happened was, essentially they'd have a day of filming. And then Spielberg, plus the writers and cast members. It wasn't even just like Spielberg and the writers. I mean, Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfus and Lorraine Gary and Roy Scheider were all actually in there with them after a long day of filming. And they would be writing the scene, like rewriting the scenes for the next day. And the Universal execs came to the set, and, you know, could you imagine coming to a set and they're like, "Hey guys, how are things going? Is everything going well?" And they're like, they're literally rewriting the movie the night before they're about to shoot it, and the execs were probably like, okay.
It's gonna be a bomb.
You know, it went 3 times. The production went 3 times longer than it was supposed to go. I think it was set for 55 days. I think on like the 105th day, they were finally done or something like that. I mean, it took so long, and, you know, and even it wasn't even just that, like, there was a leak in Time magazine. Somebody had shown up to the set and they had, you know, of course, because the sharks, what we see of the shark in the movie, the shark is only on screen for like 4 minutes of the entire movie. We actually don't see the shark very much. And we really never see it in its entirety. I mean, if you think about it, you either see it from above or you see it from one of the two sides. And there's the one shot at the end where we do see it kind of bobbing through when the orca is sinking and Brody's got the rifle and he's screaming blow up or whatever as it's swimming towards him, and it's got the CO2 in its mouth. But essentially the shark had kind of an opening, and they were using compressed air with the wires and stuff to make it move and everything. And a Life magazine reporter, or a Time was it Life or Time magazine, they had basically come and they had taken pictures of the shark and they had published it in the magazine. And Spielberg was like, "Well, this is over. Nobody's going to want to see this because they've seen that it's a shark with wires and hoses and it's on a crane and stuff." You know what I mean? To try to get it to move. Like, he basically thought that it was just, that was it. So,
because when you take out it does back when like you're ruined, like now we kind of already know, like that's how it happens. But like that was something that was like, the term I'm thinking is like Hollywood magic. That was like a big thing,
like true believability.
Yeah, and that's why those like old monster movies did so well, because they did it pretty well. But when you look at it now, you can almost guarantee like that's a man in a suit kind of thing.
Yeah.
So like back then, it was like if someone leaked a picture of, you know, Bruce in all of his animatronic glory, no one's going to be scared of Bruce. But I think that does play in the consideration of like killing the Hollywood magic, I guess.
Well, you know, it's funny. I knew you would appreciate this. Spielberg said at one point, he was like, you know, when we realized that that things weren't working, because, I mean, if you don't know, Sean Connery, salt water destroys things after a while. Like, if you wear jewelry in salt water too long, it'll ruin it. It'll corrode it out. And essentially, I don't think they realized the effect that salt water would have on those sharks when they were submerged in there for a long time and stuff. And it was kind of a happy accident moment, because I knew you would appreciate this. He was like, at some point I realized that I was going to have to make a Hitchcock movie instead of a Godzilla movie. And he was like, it was going to have to be more about what you didn't see than what you actually saw, which is why, you know, at the beginning of the film, they chose to make it where the beach party is happening and the the chick is taking her clothes off and she's naked and she runs into the ocean and her homeboy is too drunk to even get his shoe off.
Oh boy, just slumped.
I know. She's naked and she's running into the ocean and she's like, come skinny dip with me or whatever. Bro was still trying to take his shoe off like the next morning. Like she had been dead for like 12 hours and he was still sitting there trying to get his shoe off on the beach,
Oh, that's fucked.
Why, bro? He probably only had like a beer and a half. He probably spilled the rest of his second beer and he was like,
dang, don't call him a lightweight like that then.
Well, that's fair. But, that scene was particularly terrifying. Number one, because you don't see the shark, but number two, it's the angle that we see that from, and it's the time of day. It's dark, it's not... The angle was interesting because the actress even recounts like the camera was in this black box and basically they kept it where it was even like above water and below water. So you just see black below the water and then you kind of see a little bit of light and you can see the buoy and she's being thrashed around. Essentially what they did was they tied cables to her and they had like 10 people on one side of the shore and 10 people on the other side of the shore tugging at her and pulling her and people in the water pulling her to make it look like she was being thrashed around by the shark. And it's funny, Richard Dreyfus was like, he said that Spielberg's committed a war crime because essentially when they were dubbing the sounds and things like that, and they were things? Richard Dreyfus said it. He said basically they waterboarded her when she was screaming. They were like pouring water down her throat like as she was screaming to try to make it sound like this guttural, like she was drowning and being pulled underwater by the shark and stuff. I mean, it's a scary scene and it's a scary way to open the film. And I mean, if you think about it, every single time we refer back to that, when the cop sees her body washed up on the shore, when Brody gets over there, yeah, you see the hand and the crabs are all crawling on it or whatever, and the cop is like about to puke. When Richard Dreyfuss takes off the sheet when he arrived for the first time from the Oceanic Institute or whatever, or the Oceanographic Institute.
I had to ask you what was left, because we established
it wouldn't have been much left.
It was the face, torso, and then the rest right here. So it was from cut off.
It couldn't have been much.
And that's all that was left. So the arm, body, and everything else, just the face, torso, and one arm apparently was left. That's what it made it seem like. I was trying to listen to old Brody with his descriptions, and I was like, damn, Bruce left nothing to chance.
Yeah, he wouldn't have left much left, man. But and I love the setting. It's Amity Island is there's number 17, burp number 17. Amity Island is such a good setting because it, number one, isolates you. You're on an island surrounded by ocean. Number two, essentially what it did was setting it on the 4th of July and setting it at that time in the summer when people are flocking to the beach. We see all of these people. Essentially, it's like what Hooper says, lining up to be a hot lunch. I mean, you have the predator that's off, circling you, surrounding you, and you have all of these victims. And it paints a pretty scary picture. And it sets things up really, really nicely. I think one of my other favorite scenes in the entire movie is when they get everybody on the beach, when it's 4th of July and they know that there's been a shark attack, and obviously Brody wants to do something about it. He wants to close the beaches, and of course the mayor who is played by what's his face, Murray Hamilton, who is Vaughn, is basically just that's out of the question. He wants to preserve the town's
absolutely a douche
tourism appeal. Honestly, you can almost kind of consider him one of the villains of the movie.
I'd say so. He's more the villain than Bruce is, if that makes sense.
Even though there is a moment where he realizes it isn't until after that scene when they have everybody out there with guns and they're kind of on guard, and when the shark comes through, when Bruce comes through the pond, and he kills the guy, and he attacks the other kids or whatever. And it's not until then that he kind of comes to that realization of oh my God, something's wrong.
Oh my God!
You know what I mean?
What have I done?
Oh no!
Oh no! The
but
table. It's broken.
It's really cool. I love the introduction of Robert Shaw's character of Quint when they offer the bond for whoever can kill the shark. They have the press conference or whatever. And it's kind of this back and forth between Vaughn and Brody about, you have this guy who just moved here. He's new. He doesn't like the ocean. He doesn't want to be by the ocean.
Bro, imagine applying for that job, knowing dead ass what you do not like.
Yeah.
And where did he come from? Chicago? Is that mistaken? Or was it actually New York?
I think it was New York. I'm pretty sure it was New York. Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty sure it was New York. But essentially, when Alex Kintner is killed, that's kind of the moment that people realize, because it's that scene in particular always got me, because like if you listen to the cast members recalling them filming that, it's a kid. Like the lady was, it was a grown woman. It's a little bit different, but when you're dragging a kid underwater and stuff like that, that's bad. And essentially, I think what they did is the kid couldn't stay under long enough when they shot the blood up to make it look like the yellow raft is getting torn up and the blood is shooting up out of the water. Well, I don't know, but he couldn't stay under the water, and they had to dive. They sent somebody in a wetsuit, like in a dive suit, to pull him under and keep him under.
Jesus Christ.
So basically,
at this point, half the stuff is like borderline like attempted murder.
I know when Alex's character is killed, they pulled him under the water, and they had a diver there, and somebody was giving him. They did at least give him air. They didn't just keep him under the water like they're drowning him.
Yeah,
they gave him air underwater, so that was a good thing. But it's a very compelling death scene, and it's kind of the moment that kind of sets the tone for the rest of the movie, because that's when
really gets the fan.
Exactly. The bounty is placed on the thing, and Hooper shows up, and Quint is kind of, you get the idea that Quint has seen things even before. From the time you lay eyes on Quint, you know that Quint has seen some stuff in his life, and he is hardened. He's kind of a friggin' nut, and he offers the $10,000 to kill the shark, which of course prompts the whole.
Bro, talk about a man that like knows his price.
Yeah. Everybody and their mother is trying to kill the shark at this point. They're going out. You get the awesome scene of the guys on the dock where they're baiting and they're tying the bait to the dock and stuff like that, and it pulls the dock out. It's such a cool. I guess they actually don't even die, do they? They don't die.
No, I guess they didn't. Did they?
Yeah, they don't die, but it's still a pretty terrifying sequence. Being pulled under. But even that, it's so effective because you don't see it happening. You don't see the shark. You think it's there, and
literally you're missing like one of the key points of why it's so like frightening, and it's
John Williams,
because of John Williams and his composition of making the atmosphere and making the tensions with his music. Like, you didn't even have to see, and I think you said something along the lines of like Steven Spielberg knew that like he was gonna have to do like Fear of the Unknown kind of like shark,
right.
But with the help of John Williams, he was able to really set the tone of like knowing like when Bruce is coming, like Bruce is on the hunt, Bruce is nearby, Bruce is attacking. Like, it's almost as if the shark is the music, if that makes sense.
Exactly,
the music makes the shark.
The music is almost its own character in and of itself. Not its own character, but it's as symbolic as actually seeing the shark is. It's almost just as jarring. And when you pair it, even like seeing the dorsal fin through the water and stuff like that, when you hear the music with that, it's so compelling. And I think that's going back to the Hitchcockian thing. Like, that's how you achieve the Alfred Hitchcock kind of bless you, God bless you. The like less is more kind of thing is with that combination, and it just goes to show you how well Spielberg, even back then when their careers were still young, it goes to show you how well Spielberg and John Williams worked together in that moment to achieve that.
Absolutely.
But the kid's death is definitely one of the more compelling moments in the movie. You know, and
I think that really set like the stakes very high, where it's like
yeah,
no one is safe, especially
right.
from this
Well,
shark.
and one of the, I think part of it too is like, obviously as an audience member, you know, okay, this is going to be a massive animal that they're dealing with here. But I think to see, because shark attacks happen all the time, and sometimes, you know, some are worse than others.
Mm-hmm.
But I think seeing it, for obviously as an audience member, you know, okay, this is a really, really big animal that they're dealing with. But seeing Hooper show up and say, when he, you know, when he's examining the girl's remains, and he's like, hey, this wasn't a normal shark attack. This
wasn't a boat.
This is an abnormally large shark that killed the girl. And when you're seeing the kid die, and you're seeing, you know, kind of the madness start to play out, and you're starting to realize, like, okay, this is more of a problem than I think they're prepared for. You know, when even, you know, when they catch the tiger shark, and everybody's, you know, oh, everything is safe, everything, you know, they've done it, they've saved it, and Hooper is like, that's not the shark, and I can prove it to you that it's not. When him and Brody go back, I love the scene when he shows up at his house when they're having dinner, and Brody's upset. He's slapped by the woman, you know, by Kim,
like he's
mother.
Distraught.
Yes, he is very distraught over the situation, because whether he likes it or not, it's kind of a Dr. Loomis situation. You know, Brody is the one trying to convince everybody that, hey, so I think something is really wrong here, yet who does all the blame fall on? It falls on Brody. You know what I mean? And that sucks for his character, and it's really sad that, you know, he had to go through that. I think he feels the guilt from that little boy's death and from the girl's death, and, you know, and he feels the guilt for what's happening. And when Hooper shows up at his house, and you know, they have that really nice moment where he pours the wine. He pours like an entire cup
Buddy doesn't even use the wine glass
of wine, and Hooper's like, hey, you should let that rest. Anyways, he shows up. He's like, is anybody eating this? And he just starts like eating their food and stuff. But when they decide to go and cut the tiger shark open after Brody's been obsessively reading about shark attacks, and he's asking him, you know, is it true that most shark attacks happen in less than 3 feet of water, and all of these things. Basically,
imagine Bruce hunting at 3 feet of water. Fuck
know,
me.
right? Bro, 2/3 of his body would be sticking out above the water.
Pretty much, yeah.
But you know, they go and they cut the tiger shark open. Even that's a really cool shot, the way that that's filmed, because you see the side of the shark, and then you see them behind it, and you see, like, as soon as he cuts and all the white liquid spills out across the dock and everything, and it's such a cool scene. Like, just, you slowly start to watch the characters discover that this is a really big problem. And you start to see it happen when they realize that it's a great white. And when he pulls the tooth from one of the scenes that scared me as a kid is when he pulls the tooth.
That's one of the scares that got you.
The jump scare one, yeah. When he goes and they go out on the boat at night, pitch black, can't see anything, and Hooper dives down into the water, which my man has got an iron nutsack,
knowing that there is a man-eater out there.
Yeah, we're jumping into that water. But when the head floats out and the eye is kind of popped out or whatever, and there's blood in the water and stuff, and he drops the tooth. I mean, that's such a scary, jarring moment, and that's the point that they realize, oh my God, this is a great white. This is really, really bad. And of course they go and they approach Vaughn about it, and Vaughn is just, he's kind of like, well, do you have the tooth or whatever? And
oh my God, that conversation was the most frustrating thing.
Yeah.
He says, do you have it? Do you have a tooth? Well, then there's no shark.
Exactly, yeah. And he's more concerned about the vandalism on the sign than he is about the fact that there could be a legitimate danger here, you know?
Exactly.
And it's just kind of crazy. Real quick, Don Morton said the shark not working was the best issue they could have had, forced them to be way more creative. 100%. 100%. And it even made the thing is yes, it makes you kind of experience the shark differently through the music and kind of imagining what's happening, even though you don't actually see it. But it made the moments that we do see the shark all that much more impactful. You know, one of my favorite moments in the entire film is in that scene when they've got all the safety precautions out on that 4th of July weekend, after we see people like flocking to Amity Island, to the beach and whatever. And when it's in the pond and stuff like that, they all go running over. He sends his son over to the pond and stuff. And
old buddy straight up said, like, how do you say? He says, it's too dangerous over here. Go over to the shallow area or something like that.
I disagree. I don't know why he told him to do that, because there are a ton of boats of people with guns, like right there, and there are a ton of people there too, you know. But then suddenly you're gonna send him to the place that is like there's nobody out there and it's not being watched. Like, really?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? Are you
Yeah.
sure about that? You know, not a wise move, Chief. But he sends his son out there, and the shark comes, and one of my absolute favorite shots in this film is the guy who's in the little red dinghy, which I told Miguel in our watch-along, that is the ugliest little dinghy I've ever seen in my life.
It's just like a little... What are you talking about?
I don't know. It's just a tiny little red thing, like a box. And when you see the above shot of the shark, the shark is not, he's not coming at him like this. He's almost turned sideways, and you see him turn sideways, and just the force of the shark swimming underneath of the dinghy knocks the guy over into the water. And
I mean, look, it's not a strong dinghy. I'll give him that.
That moment is so cool. It's such a cool moment, seeing that shark sideways in the water. That shot, it's one of the best shots they were able to achieve with the shark. And you don't even see much. All you really need to see is his eye and the teeth and the tip of the head, and that's it. That's all you needed to see in that moment. The tip to the tongue to the tip to the teeth. You know, all that. But Josh Boyd, what's going on, man? The Alex death was damn good and crazy. Too bad the original way they were filming didn't work out. Yeah, I don't know exactly what that would have looked like, but I think it was effective in and of itself to not, I don't know, just seeing the blood kind of squirt up out of the water and then the raft washing up. And the raft is washing up kind of in the tide with the bloody water. I mean, I think that was an effective way. Again, it's what you don't see. I don't think we needed to see any more of his death. Do you?
I don't think so. No. I think we were already getting enough brutality from the off-screen stuff. Because you notice how every single attack was quick swishes and sways and stuff like that. And then literally like I think the guy with the dinghy, like after old buddy was attacked, all you see left is his hind leg, just straight up. Just...
I forgot about that. You don't even see him get bit. You just see him get pulled under the water, and then his severed leg falls to the bottom of the ocean. That's all you get. That's all you get.
Shit right there.
And I mean, let's be real. Would we have really wanted to see a little boy being ripped apart by a shark?
That was not a boy. It was a grown man. But still.
No, but we're talking about the Alex Kinman kid, the little kid on the yellow raft when he gets bit.
That's another level of...
you know what else
pain.
Is wild about that scene is when he's getting attacked, everybody running out of the water, bro, there's like old men that are getting like trampled. Like people are getting trampled as like the crowds are trying to like run up onto the beach and stuff. I mean,
that was another play on like the chaos of people, and how can I say this? The chaos of chaos, I guess. And you know what I mean? The brutality of chaos or something like that.
Yeah. 100%. And that's the moment where Vaughn realized that he sees everybody running out of the water. He realizes that someone's died. And, you know, Brody's running to the other side because the shark is getting back out. And that's where we actually see the dorsal fin and the pectoral fin like together up out of the water. You can see the length of it. You can see the size of how big it is when his son is in shock and stuff. And Brody just kind of looks out to the sea. And that's the moment where it's like, okay, let's go kill a hoe. Let's go fight somebody. He's ready to throw those fisticuffs with this shark. You know? Josh Boyd says prequel. Quint is actually Jason Statham in the Meg movies.
That'd be funny.
But is he going back in time, or is he coming? Maybe Quint went from his younger self in the future back in time to his older self in an alternate reality. There is a shark multiverse out there, my friends. It's happening.
Somewhere out there is, I'm sure.
I've actually never seen the Meg movies.
I haven't either, but it looks fun, honestly.
Yeah, it looks
I think
fun.
Jason Statham just looks like he's having fun in that movie, and I'm here for it, honestly.
Yeah.
So,
you know, it's funny. Everybody says that Nicolas Cage never like chooses his roles wisely, or he just like says yes to whatever they offer him. But I kind of feel like Jason Statham is the same way. Like every time he's in a new movie, I'm like, oh.
He's been in a couple of good ones, I gotta say.
I mean, I like him. He's a good actor. I don't dislike him, but
no, I think he dislikes him.
No, I really don't. So the meat and potatoes of the movie is when we get to the stuff on the Orca, and they hire Quint. They meet with Quint. There's kind of this my dick is bigger and longer and thicker than yours with Hooper.
We haven't talked about like the disdain between
the dynamic
Hooper and Quint. And I remember when you told me that, it became so noticeable.
Yeah.
As I was watching it, I was like, well, people, I'm surprised I've been like.
It's kind of a funny parallel because I think there is a little bit of there's a rivalry between Quint and Hooper in the novel and in the film, but if I have ever interpreted correctly, I don't believe that Richard Dreyfus and Robert Shaw were ever super fond of each other. I think Richard Dreyfus really did see himself as, you know, the acting type, and I think Richard Dreyfus Robert Shaw was really like a like they described him before, a big personality. I think he was a little bit like a lifelike Quint in real life, you know. And I think there was a little bit of a rivalry there. I think there's a rivalry between their characters when they're talking about, you know, how they, you know, got into what they do when he's asking him to tie the knot and stuff. And it's one of those things where it's like, you know, when I always think, and I didn't notice this until later on after I'd seen the movie 100 times, but when he throws in the rope and he's like, you know, tie whatever knot, and Hooper goes and he pulls the shark jaws out of the boiling water. When he turns around at Hooper, he just grabs it out. Like when Hooper throws it to him or whatever, he doesn't even look at it. Like he doesn't even care if he tied it right or not. And then he's like, "Give me your hands." And you know, he's like, I forget what he says. He's like,
brother.
Like, "You got soft hands," and he says, "You have a city boy's hands," or something like that. Like to try to insult him. Like it's just little things like that. And of course, Brody is watching this go down. Like, oh, we're gonna die. Like we're all gonna die. You know.
That's what I mean. Like he was like Brody was seriously like, why am I going out to attack this shark with the most two people that absolutely hate each other?
Yeah. But
it's
just,
I will say though,
funny.
Throughout the meat and potatoes of the fish hunt, you gotta give Quint and Hooper credit because they gave each other a level of respect in this movie.
There definitely
even though
is.
you could see the frustration between the two, you could see that each one of them was like well aware that each one of them are capable of being a sailor. So.
Yeah, and it's that level of respect, and it really the best thing about the movie, and I think one of the best choices that Spielberg made in making Jaws was that he did decide to let go of some of the other subplot stuff, and he decided to keep it mostly about the relationship and the camaraderie and the adventure part of it, of what the three of them are going on, this journey that they're going on together, because it's three very different people, very different people. And you know, like we've seen before, you know, when people are thrown into a life or death situation, there's a little bit of a bond that happens whether they want to or not. And you can definitely see, like in the moment where, you know, what's he say? Oh, it's when he's chumming. It's when he's throwing the chum out of the side of the boat. Brody is, and he's like, you know, can't Hooper come do some of this shit for a while or whatever? And Quint actually says, he's like, you know, no, Hooper drives the boat, Chief. Like I think Quint always realized that Hooper was capable. I just think
I think there was a level
always
of like,
going to give him a hard time no matter
part.
what.
Yeah.
Yes. Like everybody's got a job to do kind of thing. I feel like Beth in The Walking Dead. Everybody's got a job to do. Her and Maggie, bro, in season 3, Her and Maggie say that to each other like 55 times.
God.
Like every single scene. Everybody has a job to do. The governor attacks. Everybody has a job to do. Prison's being destroyed. Everybody has a job to do. like what? But yeah, there was always a little bit of respect there, and when they start to actually kind of battle the thing out, and Brody's kind of angry, he's smoking, he's got his cigarette lit up, he's throwing the chum overboard, and then you see the shark come up and then go back into the water, and that's when you get the famous line, which of course everybody gets wrong.
It's the most famous misused line out there.
It's not, we're going to need a bigger boat. And his delivery of that line, too, is so good because you can tell he's almost like in shock of what he just saw, and no one else there saw it. But he slowly, like, he even, like, kind of backs into, like, the doorway and stumbles. And then he backs into there and he just says, "You're going to need a bigger boat." Like, almost he's removing himself from the situation in his head. And that's when...
Like, he was already establishing, like, we're not going to be able to do this.
Right. Exactly. And
I hope we can just survive this night.
Right. And it's cool because Quint sees the shock and the terror on his face, and that's when Quint's even like, damn, I'm like, I'm okay. Like, and he goes out there, and of course then he sees it, and they start shooting the barrels into it and things like that. I mean, it's got, Jaws is one of those movies that you almost can't categorize it in, like it's got horror elements to it.
It's a shark movie.
It's got action adventure.
I mean, how else do you explain it?
True.
I mean, we said it at the review. We said like it created its own genre.
It did.
It's a shark movie.
Well,
and
but I
shark
think
movies consist of like every single genre that we can think of.
Yeah.
That you're literally about to list.
And not even just shark movies, but I think any of those big movies. I mean, look at Jurassic Park. I mean, Jurassic Park, E.T. I mean, these are movies that don't necessarily fit in one genre because there are so many good elements that are done really, really well in them. By the way, he, she, we big boobs made it.
Welcome,
What's up,
boobs.
buddy? Hello, boobs. One of my other favorite scenes in the entire movie is when they're kind of exchanging their battle scars things. And because that's one of the few times where it's like they get along. You know what I mean? They get along with each other. It's not negative. It's not trying to, see who's bigger and badder than the other. They're just laughing. They're having a good time. They had their dinner. They're probably a little drunk. I actually heard a rumor that the whole Indianapolis speech when, Hooper's like, it's you get that whole moment of levity when they're laughing and stuff and they're singing, and then Hooper finally says, you were on the Indianapolis. I've heard a rumor that they did 2 takes of that. One where Robert Shaw was sober, and then another one where Robert Shaw was plastered. And I believe the one in the movie, the better one, was when he was completely plastered.
Was it?
I've heard a rumor about that. I don't know if that's true or not, but I've heard he was crazy drunk in that movie or in that scene when he's talking about the Indianapolis and
And you see that, guys, Jaws pioneered method acting. Eat your heart out, guys.
Yeah, it did. There you go. Jaws was the first. It was one of many firsts, essentially.
I would say that, yeah.
But that's when the shark returns and it rams it and stuff, and it I don't even know what he rams the hull, but then it starts to take on water, and they're trying to repair the engine and stuff like that.
Bro, let's talk about let's talk about Bruce's fucking transmission. Old buddy can hit forward and reverse in the span of like 3 seconds. You hear doom, 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 doom. You know how hard it is to swim underwater, like go back and forth. Old buddy was ramming that bitch like a jackhammer. Yeah, I was like, no wonder the orca was.
I never really thought about that.
Jesus.
If you saw that, I guess its head would just be like.
Yeah.
Unless he was using his tail.
No.
But like
unlikely.
It was like head, tail. But even that would be a lot of like switching.
I'm starting to understand why Bruce just kept breaking all the time because they kept fucking slamming it into a boat.
But I mean, again, it interrupts that moment of like camaraderie when they get out there, and that he starts shooting at it and things like that. And I love when Quint's got this obsession, like he's got to do it himself. I mean, obviously he's killed many sharks before, and we see when Brody tries to get a hold of the Coast Guard and stuff. Brody, like at this point, Brody knows like they're screwed. Like they're not gonna kill the shark, and he tries to get a hold of the Coast Guard to get a bigger boat out there, and Quint hits it with the baseball bat.
That's it. I think that was like the start of his ego betraying him right there. I think right there was like the start.
His ego was getting the best of him.
Mm-hmm.
I also love when do you remember when Brody's wife radios in from the police station or whatever, and Quint answers it and he's like, yeah, we're all doing good, just caught a couple of fishers, yeah, we're gonna eat them now, gonna go, bye. Like he just like spits in some random crap and then hangs up the radio.
Yeah.
But it's once we get towards the end of this movie, when once it's like they have the shark tied, and they realize that the shark's starting to drag the boat, and it's like, okay, it's like the actual battle is starting to take place when they realize that, they're trying to drag him into shallow water where they can kill him, and, the engine is failing, it's starting to take on water, and they realize that, okay, they're starting to sink. There's even that moment of realization for Quint where it's like, okay, we have to do something else, and that is the moment when Hooper decides that he's got no spit and he's got to go down into that cage.
What do you mean by that?
When he's trying to clear the.
Oh, okay.
He's trying to clear the lenses and the.
Like he ain't got no spit in the game. I think he has enough spit in the game.
When he's trying to clear the glasses, and he's like, I got no spit because he's so nervous or whatever.
Yeah. You were asking like, why does he spit in there? And I'm like,
I don't know.
Can you imagine like cleaning your goggles filled with salt water and putting it in your eye? That'd be very painful. So yeah, that was the best way I could explain it. If I'm wrong, scuba diver fans, let me know.
I don't know. Scuba diver fans of scuba diving.
Fans of scuba diving.
But real quick, Kishi Wee said, love the first Jaws and would love to go to the beach where they play the film in the ocean. Dude, I would love to watch this movie. Like on water. I don't know if I'd want to watch it in the ocean. That's probably kind of dangerous, but I would love to watch it like where you see it like in a
pool,
lake or something.
in a controlled environment.
Dope. That'd be awesome.
Oh, buddy's still saying like a lake, bro. A fucking pool.
Like a swimming pool, like a kiddie pool, like one of those like you buy from Walmart for $16.
Hey, you know what? 3 foot deep. You know why? Because sharks hunt there.
Most shark attacks happen in 3 foot, less than 3 feet of water.
There you go.
But it's cool when Hooper goes down there because again, some of the coolest shots they got of the shark is when you just kind of see the gray silhouette floating by the cage, and he kind of steps back like. There's that moment, there's another burp. He steps back and he's like kind of taking in the fact that like, oh my God, like it's so massive. And it's like he's so kind of it's going by the the cage and things like that. And of course it starts ramming the cage and it's hacking the cage, and of course, like you said, he gets that forward backward transmission going where he's just kind of ramming it with his nose and stuff. And they got some real shark footage in there. That footage of the shark when it flips on top and the cage is kind of breaking apart. Dude, that's the scary thing. I told Julia, my wife, she was like her death-defying thing, she wants to go skydiving at some point in her life. And I told her, have fun. I ain't going sky. I don't like to fall. I don't want to go skydiving. But I would definitely pay $400 to get in a cage. I would do it. If I could ever make it to Australia or somewhere, I would love to go in a cage with sharks.
No, you go to Mexico.
Do they have great whites in Mexico? Is that a thing?
I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure you could do it anywhere. Cage diving. Like,
why do you want to do it with great white? Just do it with fucking sharks.
I don't know. I just think it'd be cool. I would love to see a great white in person one day. Like, now, obviously, in a controlled environment, like not in obviously not
old buddy
just
wears
when
some
I'm
like
out
meat
swimming.
underwear and meat undies and just straight up jumps into the fucking ocean.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my death-defying thing. I would love to do it, but that is real footage of that shark, and it's scary to think that if they really wanted to take out that cage, they probably could. They probably could, you know.
No
But
doubt
of course,
about that.
Super gets away, and we get that moment where the orca is really starting to take on water at this point, and Homeboy jumps out of the water onto the back of the ship and is roaring, which I think it's a very strange choice that they made the shark roar, because sharks don't roar, and I get it's a movie monster, you know, whatever, but like he comes up out of the water and bro is like, ah, you know, he's thrashing, and
Can you imagine just
could you imagine? He jumps up on the back of the boat.
Yeah, that's so funny.
But Quint's
That was
death
back on the other
is
thing.
yeah. Quint's death is a harrowing part of the movie. It's scary. It's bloody. It's dark. You see all of the debris around the shark. It's definitely starting to like weigh the boat down and pull it down the rest of the way. Even after Quint is dead and it bursts through, again, that forward transmission, it bursts through the glass, and, you know, Brody's got the tank and he's trying to shove it in its mouth or whatever, and you see the little bits of flesh flaking like on his teeth.
You see Quint again.
You see Quint. Brody's like, hey, buddy. You see the bits of his flesh like hanging from its teeth, and he shoves it down in there. And of course, that's when he grabs the rifle and the spear, and we get to, okay, show me the tank, show me the tank, show me the tank, blow up, and we start to get that moment where he's stabbing at the shark and he's shooting at him or whatever, and I love the moment that he actually kills it, because you can tell, like, you know, he's trying so hard, dude's probably running out of ammo at this point, and as soon as he shoots it, he has this moment of like, ah, like it's like he just won the Super Bowl or something, and he's screaming, and it's
I'm
such
sure it's a better feeling than that.
Yeah, that's true. You just didn't get eaten alive. That's a good feeling. Yeah. But it's such a cool, triumphant way to end the movie.
I also love how
the
like old buddy Hooper just straight up like got out of the cage and just hid behind a rock.
Yeah.
Just
I was always a little
entire
shocked
thing
that the
happen.
shark didn't notice that, which I guess if he was too busy taking out the cage, then, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, he
I mean,
was a little
Quint was priority number one.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
he wanted Quint the most.
Yeah.
But even, you know, you talked about like the personification of the shark with the music and stuff like that. Even the barrels, when they got the 3 barrels on him, and you randomly see the barrels float back up out of the water because they're trying to keep him from being able to go deeper down. Like when the barrels pop up and you're just watching the 3 barrels move on top of the water. Like even that's, you know, they did such a good job of making you think and feel like the shark is there, even though you don't see it. And again, it's the best thing about the movie. It's the thing that they did the best. And it's not crazy to say that I get why it was such a success, and I get why people flocked to the theaters to see it, because it was definitely a really cool experience. I would love to go back and watch this in 1975 when it came out, you know? I bet that was a trip.
Yeah, I bet it was. I mean, I don't know how the reaction would have been, honestly.
Well, I remember I was listening to a show or a podcast or something one time. I don't even remember what it was on. And the question came up of, is Jaws a horror movie? And a lot of people would say no, because, yeah, it looks dated and it's not really scary by today's standards and things like that. But I think if you were to go back to 1975 and ask people if Jaws is a horror movie, I think you'd hear a very resounding yes. You know, and of course it has other elements.
It's just that the horror movie wasn't like at night, if that makes sense.
Right.
It was like one of those. It was one of those where like the shark attacks was like pretty much in broad daylight, and the climax of the movie was in daylight.
Yeah.
I think it's just what makes it weird for a horror movie.
Yep. But I mean, I gotta tell you, this one's a 10 out of 10 for me. It's one of the few true. It is a 10 out of 10. I don't know that I would change anything about it. I mean, it's I told Miguel during our watch along, I was like, I don't think there's a moment in this movie where I feel bored. Like, everything is about
and I guess we didn't feel that way throughout the movie either. So
everything is about the characters and their relationships with each other in relation to what's happening with the shark. And it's just it's so good, and it's so well told. And again, when you look at, I know I said this before, but when you look at all of the problems involved with it and the difficulty of getting it made, and you look at what it became, what it became and what it has still stayed, in terms of like its relevance to pop culture. I mean, it's pretty outstanding that
for how long it's held up.
There it is again. Yes, for how long it's held up
since its release.
For how long it's stayed popular. I mean, even the poster, when you see that poster, I mean, that is so iconic in and of itself.
Oh, buddy needs some braces.
He does. Yeah, his teeth are nuts. Which I think great whites have, I think they have like multi-layers of teeth that fall out. Do they? Yeah, their teeth fall out all the time.
Oh, okay.
Like, I think they just constantly get new teeth every once in a while. But listen, Jaws it's a 10 out of 10 for me. It's incredible. I will always have a huge love and appreciation for this movie. Jaws 2 is good. Jaws 3 is okay. Jaws the Revenge shouldn't have been made, but that's
dog water.
That's a whole other thing. Jaws 2 is actually a fun sequel. I'm going to be real.
Is it?
Jaws 2 is the Halloween Kills for multiple reasons of the franchise. It really is.
Well, we'll have to watch it because I've never seen Jaws 2.
The shark is even burned.
Really?
I'm not even kidding you. The shark is even burned.
Dang.
Yeah.
Is it still animatronic?
Yep. I believe so.
Wow.
I think it was still animatronic in that one. But.
Steven Spielberg didn't direct that either, did he?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, how about that? I wouldn't come back.
So. Yeah. But that is a story for another day, kids. So, listen, thank you so much for everybody who joined us on this show. This has been episode number 25 of Purely and Simply Evil, talking the one and only Jaws. And again, we skipped over a lot. You could sit here and talk about this movie for hours. We
only scratched the surface of what this movie actually holds in store for us.
And I'm sure, again, we'll hit the rest of the franchise at some point. We will talk about Jaws again at some point. But until next time, thank you so much for being here. Be sure to leave this one a like if you have not already. Real quick, again, the Oktoberfest teaser trailer drop tonight begins on September 29th. All horror content all month long for the month of October. A lot of really cool things there. There's an extended sneak peek where we talk a little bit about what's happening this October in the Let's Talk Movies Facebook group. So if you haven't joined that yet, get off your ass. I'm kidding. If you haven't joined the Let's Talk Movies Facebook group, in the Facebook app, type in Let's Talk Movies YouTube channel -- community page and join that group. Sunday night at 8 p.m. Not at 8 p.m. at 10 p.m. after the episode is publicly aired. I'm gonna have my spoiler-free or not spoiler-free. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. My spoiler review of episode 5 of The Walking Dead: Dead City Stories We Tell Ourselves on Tuesday night. I will be talking my casting choices if they were to remake Halloween. And then also next Saturday, a week from tomorrow, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the 2003 remake, because we talked about it a little bit at the top of the show. It's arguably my favorite horror remake, and I think there are things about that film that I like even better than the original. Even though I know that's blasphemy, but it's okay. It's okay. I'm willing to go there. It's all right. So, guys, thanks so much for being here. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and Threads now at LTM Podcast KY. And we love you. Always be good to each other. New episodes of our shows premiere every week, except for next week, because I'll be probably swimming with Bruce in the ocean. And we love you.
Yeah, we're collected Bruce.
Yeah, if I see an animatronic shark somewhere, I'll hit y'all up. I'll video it for you.
All right.
So, guys, we love you so much. Have a good rest of your night and a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Peace.